With global powerhouses like Gucci, Sephora and Adidas across 7 countries, you found yourself asking the deeper questions.
I worked for 15 years in corporate and I had an amazing life, but it was really great on paper, but then in reality I was very misaligned.
Revenue Forward, a podcast on scaling deep tech and startup growth, helping founders turn innovations into companies with positive global impact. Welcome to another episode of Revenue Forward, and today we're going to be talking about from values to value, leadership systems change and financially sustainable impact. And with us today we have Tino Shanikida, who is the founder of Revenue, and Nadina Tyropolis, I hope I've pronounced that correctly.
Perfect.
Yeah. Who is the founder of Dara Impact. And Nadina, explain us, from going from corporate to where you are now. Let's just hear a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are today with your why.
Absolutely. So, as you said, and thank you for the intro, I think you said most of the details quite well. I worked for 15 years in corporate and I had an amazing life, but it was really great on paper, but then in reality I was very misaligned with what I was doing. I became my own guinea pig. So for the last 10 years I worked with coaches, therapists, mentors, shaman, energetic healers, whatever you can name it out there. I traveled a lot in search of some of the answers to questions that I couldn't really figure out. And what happened was that everything on paper was perfect. I had a great job, I was getting a great salary, my team was amazing, I was traveling all over the world, I had a super high touch points job, but I was feeling completely unfulfilled. And that's where I couldn't understand the why, and that became a very important question for me. And it's interesting because it was a personal values exercise that I did that kind of hit the switch and everything changed. Because when I sat down to do this personal values exercise and I saw the values that I was embodying in this work and this job and in this life that I had built were not the values that I wanted. So I had wealth, I had success, I had teamwork, I had challenge, I had all these values that for some people might be exactly what they're looking for. But in reality, my values were creativity. I couldn't be creative. I had a bunch of people on the top of me and my CEO who would tell me how to manage everything. Then my value is freedom. How can you be free if you're working 70 hours for someone else and don't even have time for your own personal things? My value is service, and I couldn't really service people where I was in the way that I wanted and I do now. And that's sort of what hit the switch and everything changed. And then I took a massive leap of faith and I quit my job and to start embodying my values. It wasn't easy. It was very difficult because the mind chatter is very strong. Mm-hmm. And even more than the mind chatter, what is very strong is the societal conditioning that we have around us of what it means to be a 37-year-old man, what it means to be an almost 40-year-old woman, how much you need to make, what the title is that you need to do, where you need to be working, and so forth. So with that in mind, I went on a journey, and now I open my own company, Dara Impact Coaching, and everything that I have learned, I bring it into it and work with founders, entrepreneurs, leaders, CEOs all around the world to also find their authentic self and lead authentically with impact.
Nice. So, and Dara, explain the Celtic sort of background.
I love this question.
Yeah.
So I'm half Scottish. So my mom is from Scotland. My dad was born and raised in Sudan in Africa.
Really?
It's quite an interesting mix there, but he's Greek. But I've always had a very strong connection to the Celtic roots because of my mother.
Wow.
So they have all these Celtic knots. And Dara is a Celtic knot, the Dara knot, that represents the foundation of an oak tree.
Wow.
So if you cut an oak tree and you look at it on the top, you have a little bit of a knot happening, and that's where the roots come down and go down into the earth. I love the analogy of it and the parallelism that it has with coaching, because coaching for me is the same, that you need to work on that strong, solid support system and work on the roots before you even look at the branches. Mm-hmm. And that's why for me it made a lot of sense to bring Dara and Dara Impact, and then it became Dara Impact Coaching, into what I do, because I work on the roots, not the branches. And then the branches will bear fruit, and the branches will, flower and whatever is needed. And that's what a lot of times, unfortunately, we tend to not really dive into the roots. They're the toughest ones to tend to, because if you have a root that is traumatized,
the root cause.
Exactly, the root cause. It needs a lot of work.
Right.
And it's not happy work a lot of times. And sometimes you get to be very uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, that's where we work, the roots. And that's when we create that solid support, like a Dara knot, for you to be solid and to be able to have the branches bear fruit.
Amazing. Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'm a storyteller. I did marketing. I was in marketing for 50 years, so I'm a natural storyteller. There has to be a story to everything that I do.
Yeah. We're all here in marketing.
Exactly. We just love it.
Yeah. So Dara Impact positions itself as a catalyst for systems change. What does that actually look like in your day-to-day work? And, sort of how do you know when a founder or initiative is truly ready for that kind of leap?
Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful question. These days, we're very focused on external performance. And with that, it's all about what's happening outside. What is happening with competition? What is happening with revenue? What is happening with what people are wanting? And there's such a strong focus there. What I do is internal change, system changing. So with that, I believe that that's a key to know if a founder is ready or not. What do I mean? If you look into statistics, 40% of startups fail within their first 5 years. That's quite a big number. So when you start looking into the internal alignment and you start asking founders questions like, do you know where your blind spots are? Do you know what your inner critic is telling you? Do you understand how you manage pressure? Do you understand what authentic leadership means and not what you think you need to be as a leader? Are you authentically aligned with your business? And is your business speaking the same language that you are speaking in your head? So, and that is what I do every single day, and I love it, to be honest. And the key here is to understand that you cannot have external mastery without inner mastery. So the performance comes after you have mastered your inner
100%.
shadows, let's say. Do you have to have it all perfect? No, you don't. And the reality is that it's an ongoing work. So I would never say to a founder, work on your stuff first and then go and launch a company. You can do it in parallel, but you need to make sure also that you give the space that is needed to that. The same way that you give the space to strategy, to pricing, to funding, to whatever it is, you need to give the same space to work on what is happening internally. And that is what will set you apart with investors, with your team, with partners, and whoever it is that you're working with, when you start to know what is truly in there, and that really solidifies your position.
Your inner compass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, actually Nadina did a talk at Business Athletes recently on the inner compass to know what your outer compass.
Incredible talk.
Thank you.
And we're sitting here with two ex-athletes, Tina, who is tennis, and Nadina, who was into martial arts. Muay Thai.
Yes.
Muay Thai. So what happened there? Let's just spin back to the athlete's journey to business.
Totally. So I remember my dad when I was young, he told me one thing. He's like, you don't have an option. You have to go into sports. Yes or yes, that's the only thing I asked for. I'm like, okay, fine. I get it. He was also he was also an athlete, a very good athlete back in Sudan. Totally different story. He used to run barefoot.
Really?
Completely different story,
Wow.
yeah. And he was an athlete also, and a very good one. And I think because his parents then pushed him to become something different, even though he wanted to be an athlete, for him it was important. That's where I started, my sister as well. I chose Muay Thai because my sister did ballet. So I was like, okay, I need to choose the most opposite thing than what she's doing. So it's going to be martial arts. And it taught me a lot. Martial arts has taught me a lot. It's taught me the values in which I grew up with. It taught me respect. It taught me to be able to manage my emotions a lot, because when you're in that moment, you can't let anger take over when you're
Right.
in the ring, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't forget respect in what
Right.
it is that you are doing. You need to be there. And it taught me trust as well. Because I had someone in my corner, and you're the one fighting, but then you have someone in your corner telling you, stand your ground, pull back, stop, don't do this, so full trust. And I think that also gave me the discipline and the resilience. So if you talk to all my old bosses, one thing that they will all tell you about me is that she's really resilient. Like, we'll go through the worst season, whatever it is, and she's like, back into the office, come on guys, let's go. And, have that energy of learning from your failures.
Right.
So personally, I don't believe that there are failures. It's only lessons.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I lost the fight. I'm not going to sit and cry about it or mold about it. Or if
Right.
I do, I allow myself a very specific time to do it. But then it's about, okay, get up, move on. What's next? What can we do? How can we overcome that?
Mm-hmm.
So I think these are things that I also bring into my day-to-day. Being an entrepreneur,
Right.
I mean, the resilience you have to have is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Insane. You don't have a system built around you, right? That, okay, my
course.
boss is there, he'll help me out,
Yeah.
I've got my team. So I think that's something that really helped me incorporate in my entrepreneurship and opening my own business.
Okay, and great, Tina. So you relate to this as well. I think.
Completely. Incredible how she perceives and how she articulates it so clearly. It's really impressive. But yeah, I can definitely relate with probably 99.9% of the stuff she's saying. So it's amazing, and congratulations on a stellar career and making the
Thank you.
right moves. But I have some questions for you, but I'll let Katrina continue.
So you talk about working with closely with purpose-led leaders.
Right.
How do you help them stay anchored in their values and while navigating funding pressure and business decisions?
Yeah. It's interesting to look into the concept of pressure, because pressure is not what creates misalignment. For me, pressure reveals what already exists.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the way that I like to see this is, and I like to bring in this story about firemen. So when you look at firemen, they don't train when they're under pressure. So they don't do the training when they run to a building, it's already on fire, and they're like, okay guys, let's start training. They do all the work beforehand. They do all the work when there isn't a fire. They do all the work when they're in the most calm.
Exactly.
Pressure and moment, right? So by working on your values, working on your internal belief systems, working on all these things, how to manage pressure before that actually happen, that is the key. I like to do the personal value session first. It's probably one of the biggest sessions that I do with the clients and the people that I work with, and I love it. I'm so passionate about it. You know it. I cannot stop talking about it.
Yeah.
But I do it as a first session, and the reason why I do it as a first session after strategy is because this on itself is strategy. It's not just a fluffy tool. You put some, things there and whatever, that's it. But we create a decision-making framework. We create hiring filters. We create pricing strategy based on what your values are, and in a way that honor these values that make sense to you. So I like to call the sessions a microcosm. And I create almost this little bubble with the people that I work with, that it's a testing place. So we'll talk about high pressure situations. I'll challenge them. I'll put them in, lovingly, in a corner that, they will be very high stress for them at times, and ask them all these questions and do almost like fire rounds, tying back to the firemen. But that's when you train. So don't wait until, okay, things are quiet, now I'm grounded, whatever, okay. That's when you need to train. Not like the whole world is exploding, I need to find a coach or listen to a podcast or do shadow work or whatever it is that works for you.
Right.
So my advice is to work on these things when you are in your calmest.
So stress test when you're
Exactly. And that's when you'll start embodying your non-negotiables. They become your go-to.
Right.
Your values become your go-to. And then when you are in that high-pressure moment, you're like, okay, what is my value? My value is quality. Okay, that supplier didn't manage to provide the quality that I wanted. That is my value. I'm sorry, I need to cut this relationship now. Done. Tons of examples here to give, but that would be my advice.
Yeah, so you live by your values, and that obviously has an impact on your work and who you attract.
Exactly.
Basically.
Exactly.
And Tino, do we know revenues values? Are we?
Definitely, but she says she wants to bring them out. Of course, I have my value system. The values of revenue. It's okay. So the why, like me and her were speaking before the podcast started about the why.
Yes.
Like why I started the company and why revenue does what it does, right? And our why is to help founders with innovative ideas, turn those innovative ideas into commercially successful companies, right? And my idea is to be the co-founder a founder doesn't have, right? To help the person, especially in the difficult times, the times where you need resilience, where you need foresight, where you need a person who gives you kind of like a cushion. And this is why normally we have some of the companies we're working with, and we continue to work with for such a long time, we become that, like bedrock for the founder to kind of lean on, right? And as we understand the complexities of business, and you understand, right? So I would say the value, which is the main value which we give or which we do, is ability to be resilient and help the founders be resilient in face of adversity and keep the vision alive. Because there's a lot of things which are happening when you're building a company or you're a professional athlete, and you can lose foresight of what.
Yeah.
So I would say it's a little bit unpopular, and this me and her I'm gonna ask her as well the way it is. It's for me. It's like for revenue or how we work. It's war when you start. And somebody said to me, "No, it's business strategy." No, it is war because of how competitive it is and how many things which can go wrong, which will go wrong when you're starting a business and when you're trying to gain market share. It is more brutal than sport when you're going in real business. Like what I've seen, we've worked with retail companies, we've worked with deep tech companies entering new markets. It is brutal.
Yeah.
Like you have finances against you, you have time against you, you have the competition. It is brutal. And I know what these founders, especially who are starting deep tech companies, face. Like she said, 40% of companies don't exist. For deep tech, like the companies which we're now working with, it's a 90% failure rate.
Right.
So it's
high.
It is. So it is war. Like 9 out of 10 times what you're doing is going to fail, even if you invest your life. So for me, my value system is a little bit more on the aggressive side, supporting the founders, because I kind of see what is happening, and I kind of, but we need a balance of how we see. But as a company, we are built on endurance, resilience, and I'm sorry to say we're like almost like on the front line of helping our founders make it their way to commercialization because of how complicated it is. And it is a little bit of a unpopular leadership style
Not at
today. How it is, but it kind of works because of the results which we get. Like if I show you the results of the companies which are under revenue management right now, it is like year on year in terms of sales year, it is kind of the proof is in the pudding, but it's unpopular. And I have things to learn from for sure from her a lot, and I have to develop my leadership style and evolve it. But for now, this kind of is working, and is getting us results. How sustainable it is maybe for Nadine to help us. But the value system. So I think my value, it is mainly on the resilience, the tenacity, and going the extra mile to make sure that the work is done. Right.
My first question was like, okay, what does aggressive mean? By whose standards aggressive?
I like that question. Okay, the word is not aggressive, because we even had this with the team this week. We have one manager who just joined us, and he said something which is very good. One professional services manager just joined our team about a week ago, and I was speaking about aggressive. It's good, and he said another word. It's assertive.
Fair.
So and assertive is a good word, not aggressive. So it's assertive, but the market is aggressive, Nadine.
That is true.
People get laid off, and now with AI, what I'm telling even people, you guys can mark my word, in the next 6 months, it's going to be a brutal amount of layoffs in the world, across all job specs, especially in our industry. So if you're not able to deliver way more than what is expected for you, you're not going to have a job in the next 6 to 12 months.
True.
So it's the reality. So people need to be assertive.
Yeah.
I kind of have to be. I don't know, Nadine.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get it, I get it.
So for me, I have this school, and to be honest with you, the highest performing leaders right now. Maybe not the most healthiest, maybe not the most popular, but the most successful. Nadine is looking at me with the eyes.
Not at
Okay,
all.
the ones who are succeeding the most at getting things
Yeah.
done have this type of leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's about finding the balance also within things. Like something that I said in my TEDx talk
Right.
in the end is that our world doesn't need more high performers that are running on empty batteries, but it needs more people who are aligned,
Right.
who can perform with impact and sustainability.
Right.
Right? So it's about finding that balance as well, because if you
Right.
have, you know, in my job in Gucci, I used to work weekends, 70, 80 hours, as you say, crazy. But what was I delivering? So it's not about let's do more. It's about
about
finding
the
that
the
balance
output.
about quality over quantity and the output for sure.
Yeah.
And I think to your what you were saying as well, I love that you're saying you're not gonna like this. I love it because this is social conditioning.
Right.
Because when you say that, you're conditioning your mind and saying that there's people out there that are not gonna like it.
Right.
So are you authentic? If that's what you believe,
Yeah.
I'm gonna like personally.
Yeah.
And this is where the microcosm comes.
Okay.
As a coach, I love it.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. Tell me more about it, you know? And that's why I practice also non-judgment with everyone that I'm in the session.
is
You can
amazing.
say whatever comes to
Right.
your mind.
Yeah.
I'm going to love it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to challenge you to
Right.
see if that is your thought
Or
if it's a thought that has been planted in you by someone else. Could be family. And this is where values also come in again. Could
Yeah.
be family, could be a first boss, could be a first mentor, could be a girlfriend at some point that told you you'll never succeed. You know,
No.
where is it come from?
no, she's right. But like this, can I throw in the question because it
Yeah.
actually goes in.
Yeah. Go on.
And this is the question which I had for Katrina. I spoke to
Yeah.
Katrina about it, and I was waiting. So, but I will go deeper. So we often discuss normally, right? In terms of people are often discussing values-driven leadership, right?
Yeah.
In ideal conditions. But how do we maintain? Like, should leaders maintain integrity when tested by real-world pressures, which I know, like funding,
Yeah.
shortages, cutthroat competition,
Yeah.
deadlines, which are crazy deadlines. So what would be your playbook for adapting like an athlete, you know,
Yeah.
in while staying true to your core principles?
Yeah.
you know?
I think the question that I would ask a leader here is that are you planning to build a business that's going to be around in 10 years? Are you planning to build a business that is aligned, impactful, and sustainable? Not
Right.
sustainable only in the environmental side, because I know that also it's something you focus
Right.
on,
Right.
but sustainable in all ways. Because if you are building a business that you're just following your top line, so you're following top line and bottom line. So you're
Right.
following top line is things like revenue, sales, performance, all
deliverables.
that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you have your strategy, you have your team, your product, and all that. If you're just following all that, you're gonna burn out
You think so?
for sure. If you're not aligned internally,
Okay.
the moment the pressure comes, you're gonna burn out.
I disagree, but it's okay. I disagree with you, but it's okay. We can agree to
yeah,
disagree.
for sure.
The inner compass.
What
So-
is it that you disagree with?
No, I disagree because I think, like you say, there's alignment depending on your leadership style, right? And I think there are different leadership styles. It's like in sport, like in tennis, for example, you have a way to play. There's Nadal, who was defensive, he was very successful. Federer was very aggressive, he was playing very fast. And then you have like tacticians, right? People. So I think in leadership, there's different leadership styles. I don't think there's one style
Absolutely.
which works. But I think there are certain characteristics the modern leader has to have now to be able to be successful. I think now how the world is and the challenges we have in this world, and it's my opinion, we require different type of leadership, which is, I would not say more assertive. But
Aggressive is what you're going back to.
not
It comes back
aggressive,
to this.
not aggressive, but assertive,
Yeah.
because of the risks which are encountered with what we
Yeah.
have in business, in politics, and
sure.
everything. So, this is my opinion, but you know, I stand to
For
to
sure.
be,
So my point here is that you need to have authentic leadership.
Oh,
There is
you.
no right or wrong.
You agree?
You know,
Yeah.
doesn't mean that aggressive leaders are wrong and softer leaders are right? But it's like when you start showing up with purpose, authentically aligned, and knowing who you are,
Right.
things change.